Hello, Management 3000. My name is Brandyn Clark. Along with Kyle Gordy, Travis Beeman, Karina Milan, and John Hopkins, we cumulatively did our current event on Uber and how they plan to change their culture within. To start off, Kyle and John spoke upon organizational change and how their internal influences determine how Uber is today. Organizational change is defined as any substantive modification to some part of an organization. Karina and Travis demonstrated how strategic control guided how Uber currently operates today. Strategic control focuses on how effectively the organization's strategies are succeeding in helping the organization meet their goals.
My name is Kyle, and my topic is organizational change at Uber. Organizational change is defined as any substantive modification to some part of the organization. These changes can be caused by either internal or external forces. Depending on the forces that are acting on the company, organizational changes can be planned or reactive changes. Planned change is designed to anticipate future events, while reactive change is a response to some event as they develop. Uber is currently experiencing reactive change due to internal forces. Uber has developed change because of a lawsuit that was filed for sexual harassment and the stealing of corporate secrets. The CEO of a company that Uber acquired is accused of stealing property from Alphabet in relation to its autonomous car efforts. The sexual harassment charges were by a former employee who was harassed on her first day of work. The employee's new manager sent her messages trying to have a sexual relationship with her. The woman reported the manager to HR, but she said that the HR department told her that he was a high performer and would not be fired as it was his first offense. They would give him a stern talking to instead. One change Uber is making is that they are implementing performance reviews to hold senior leaders accountable. This will allow managers to see if there are any conflicts within their team with management. Uber will also be keeping better human resources records. This will allow the company to keep a log of any complaints that are filed and if the problem has been addressed. Mandatory human resources and manager training are also being implemented. This will allow managers to have the skills they need to approach any situation. Uber is establishing an employee diversity board which will allow them to have a diverse workforce. Another policy is to prohibit romantic relationships between individuals in a reporting relationship. If this policy would have been in place, Uber might not would have gotten into a sexual harassment lawsuit. This would prevent any employees from being in a relationship with their managers. Any changes that Uber makes will not take effect immediately. The changes will have to be made in an orderly manner to prevent any problems or resistance to the changes. These organizational changes should increase overall morale and performance of employees of Uber.
If a company is experiencing anything negative from poor sales to public scandals, it is going to need to implement organizational change. One classic way of implementing change is known as the Lewin model, where managers are taught to follow 3 strict steps to implement the change. 1. Unfreeze employees who will be affected by the change. 2. Implement the change policies themselves. And 3. Enforce the change so they will start to feel actually habitual. Uber, amidst allegations of sexual harassment, took on a more comprehensive approach. The first step Uber took was to actually recognize that they needed change. Uber realized the need to change when Susan Fowler stated that her superiors sexually harassed her. This realization then directed Uber to the next step of the comprehensive approach, which was to create goals for change. Uber's goals were clear. Create programs and policies that would allow for their employees to work in a place where they can feel both safe and comfortable. After setting these goals, Uber followed the next step in the comprehensive plan, which is diagnosing what caused the problem in the first place. They realized that their top management was receiving special treatment and the HR department was acting negligently. Workplace environments that have a lax HR department and untouchable leaders are inevitably going to experience internal organizational issues such as these. Lastly, Uber implemented techniques that will prevent these situations from happening in the future, such as creating performance reviews, keeping better HR records, creating a larger HR department, requiring training for HR employees and managers, and much more. In most cases of organizational change, there is resistance to the change itself among the workforce. However, many of the techniques and practices Uber used to change actually are techniques for overcoming resistance to change. For one, Uber allowed its employees to participate in surveys and focus groups in order to get feedback and suggestions from the organization as a whole in order to unite everyone in their efforts to change. Managers and HR representatives are now also required to go through training which educates and communicates to the managers and HR reps and reduces uncertainty on new rules and regulations. Overall, Uber's plan to reorganize and redirect their company is a well thought out, comprehensive plan that will improve the company's values and environments in the long run.
In order for an organization to meet its goals and expectations, it is important to identify strategies and techniques that have been successful in the past while considering both managers and employees. The element of strategic control is important for organizations to distinguish policies that have been working and change others that have been unsuccessful. Organizations can monitor these strategies over extended periods of time, but when an organization is going through major structural changes, immediate action may be required to address goals and expectations. Recently, Uber has been undergoing organizational change focusing on the company's culture. Uber's Chief Human Resources Officer has been outlining strategies to change its performance review for management by creating metrics that gauge how much leaders contribute to a diverse and inclusive workplace. In this case, Uber's strategic control needed to be revisited due to changes in the organization's culture. These organizational changes stem from an investigation regarding sexual harassment prompted by former Uber engineer Susan Fowler. Fowler's first-hand account of sexual harassment and sexism at the company forced Uber to reevaluate its culture and make necessary changes to values and employee relations. Strategic control directly ties into these changes because Uber needs to modify existing policies to maintain a healthy, functional work environment. Organizational values change over time and need to be adapted to better represent objectives and goals. So far, the company has introduced a new coaching system for managers in the US and Canada and expects to expand that over the next year or so if it goes well. Our group decided to apply these concepts of organizational change and strategic control to another current event that focuses on a former manager of General Electric and her decision to branch out and create her own spin-off of the company. This article focuses on maintaining control and employee motivation during fast-paced changes. Karina will now discuss how this other example of organizational change has driven managers to reconsider employee needs to maintain strategic control.
The first concept that we're going to be relating to this article is strategic control. Now, what is strategic control? Well, strategic control focuses on how effectively the organization's strategies are succeeding and helping the organization meet its goals. In this article, Uber's poor management structure and work environment is causing chaos in the workplace. But luckily, Hornsey, Uber's Chief Human Resource Officer, has come up with recommendations to help better meet Uber's goals. Now, in order for this to work, influence and power play a big role to help build a company's vision. She is using personal power to encourage commitment from its employees. And as a leader, she is getting involved with her employees to better understand the company's values and for them to be aware that they are able to report any issues or concerns that they have now or in the near future. And one of her recommendations, she provided that they were going to create one or two chief diversity officer positions. By doing this, she is sharing power and decision making with her subordinates, which gives them a sense of empowerment. And this obviously motivates her employees to want to collaborate and promote change because they feel like they are cooperating in the organization's performance. Now, the type of influence style that she is using is the pushing style. The recommendations that she provided would definitely create solutions to fix its problem, especially with her position that she holds now. She's going to need it to persuade and assert her employees that there will be change.
In conclusion, we determined that Uber has experienced drastic influences of organizational change and strategic goals. While Uber may be experiencing these changes, all companies will experience some kind of change in one way or another. Change will affect different companies in different ways. It all comes down to how well those changes are implemented within. We hope you enjoyed our presentation, and thanks for watching.